Yo, what's up? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to the Powercast, and we will be recapping Power Book 2 Ghost Episode 4, and the title of this episode is The Prince. I'm here with Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How you doing, Rich?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
Good, good. And also here with Miss Dana Abercrombie. How you doing, Dana?
I'm doing wonderful.
Good to hear, good to hear. Yeah, so, of course, there's a lot to talk about with this episode. It was quite a spicy episode. But, we did have another voice clip that we're going to play before we kind of get into our thoughts. It's from Robert Silver again. So, he's just giving his reactions to this episode. But, if you guys do want to send your clips in, be sure to send it to, Gary at thecoalition.com. And just put, in the subject, just put power, Powercast voice note or something like that, just so I can, quickly identify what it is, because I get hundreds of emails per day in that inbox, so I just want to be able to see it quickly. But yeah,
It's very important.
I wouldn't say that, but people are always trying to find me for stuff, so but yeah, so let me play this clip real quick. Robert has some pretty interesting thoughts on this episode that we're gonna get into, so let me play it real quick.
Hey, what's up, fellas? This latest episode of Power was just plain nasty. I don't understand why all the frivolous sex. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't add anything to the storyline. And now I understand that next week is the mid-season finale, and there's no word until when the next 5 episodes will air. This sounds like Starz stealing money from its subscribers. It just doesn't make any sense. I'm glad I don't subscribe to Starz. I watch it through nefarious methods, but this episode really pissed me off. And it looks like eventually they're going to have Tariq take his clothes off. And by the way, we finally found out his real age is 17. Unrealistic storyline. Unrealistic show. Fellas, talk to y'all soon. Hey, what's...
Okay, so real quick, I just want to say, we do not condone watching Power through nefarious means at all. I love Starz. I love Courtney Kemp. I love 50 Cent. So I just want to say that first and foremost. And yeah, that's quite a reaction there, and I'm pretty sure a few of us kind of echoes some of the sentiments and the frustrations that Robert just displayed. And I'm hearing that echo right there. Did you have something to say about that, Dana? About what Robert just said?
Okay, one, no one is forcing anyone to subscribe to Starz. You can easily cancel the subscription until the show comes back on, and the show most likely will return in January. That's how mid-season finales work. They did that a lot with other shows on even basic cable. The thing with the show and the sex scenes, I just want to know if that was the same energy that you had during Power, because I had to wade through a whole bunch of sex scenes with that. The problem is with this show, it's a lot of characters that the writers are putting in a lot of characters that people don't really care about. So whatever their actions are, which may include a sex scene, people don't really care about. But just to say the sex scenes itself is wrong or not right, I don't understand that.
Okay, we're gonna unpack that because I will say one thing. I think the problem is I don't think people are used to sex scenes in Power, but I feel like the ones we saw in this episode was just it's the reason behind why they happen that kind of has people a little up in arms, But thanks again to Robert, and we encourage other people to send in their thoughts, about Power and everything, and we'll play it, and we'll discuss it. Discuss what everyone says. I want this to be like a community, so definitely send in your clips, and we'll discuss things. So let's get right into the episode, so we can begin to unpack some of these things that are kind of floating in the air right now. So before we get to the juicy stuff, obviously there's some other house cleaning we gotta do here, with regards to other stories that are going on in the show and everything. So I want to get right to the new characters that were kind of introduced in this episode. So the first one we saw was I guess his name is Sebastian, but they call him Bash Stern. So this guy, is basically Stern's partner, and the episode starts with Tariq, visiting him. He believes he's visiting Stern, but this guy is sitting there, and basically he's trying to set up this application that he can use to kind of distribute his his product at the college. And the app acts as basically a tutoring app where you can request some tutoring for certain subjects or whatever. So that's a pretty interesting scene. And I want to ask you guys, like, because we've seen previously in other episodes that when Tariq was talking to Tasha, his mum, he said that he has an idea how to do things differently and make it work and everything. So is this like his master plan, like his big idea that he had, like this app basically? What do you think of that, Rich?
Yeah, I do think that's what the master plan was, but one issue I do have with this, which I will also get into when we talk about a few other topics, it appears as though this app has come out of thin air, where it was an idea, where it was suggested that he has a idea in the previous episode, and then at the beginning of this episode, the app is already created. No explanation as to how the app was made, nothing of the sort, because all that happened off camera. So, yeah, but I will say this. The idea of creating the app, and Dana will get into this also, but the idea of creating the app and making use of selling the uppers, the downers, and the weed through the app, I have to say it's a good idea for this for the show, but it is not an original idea. But yes, still a good way to explain how Tariq is able to do this whole thing with his business. So I will give him that.
Yeah, because my thing is, it's like so was this all Tariq's idea to make this app kind of thing? Because like I'm thinking, like, if you had the means to get an app like this, did this already exist first of all, or did he like have it created or something?
That's a great question. I mean, you're gonna laugh when you hear this. I did a search for this app on the App Store, because I wanted to know if there is an app similar to this that's out there, and obviously it was not found. So, I mean, right. I believe, obviously, I do think it's possible for anyone to create an app. There are definitely tools where that could be possible. But again, we didn't see that process of it being created, because that was, again, done off camera. If it was, how they acquired that, all that was done off camera, because they're just trying to accelerate the story and show you what he's doing to make money. So I guess that doesn't matter. But if I was working on this show, I would have shown exactly how the app came about, because all you heard was he had an idea, and then all of a sudden the next episode, oh yeah, I have an app I'm using now, and it's already blowing up. So that's a little ridiculous, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, because my thing is, I guess we're supposed to believe that, Sebastian had this made for him or whatever and set it up and everything like that. But go ahead.
Well, no, that's not the case, because we saw that at the beginning of the episode, Tariq was already using the app, and then that was what he used to leverage his conversation with Sebastian about this is the business that I'm doing, and you can get a cut just so long as Stern doesn't know about it. So he definitely acquired, whether it's an app that already exists or one that was created. I think they intentionally just ignored that, and they just said we need to show that Tariq already has a way of making money, because there's other stories we have to tell, because there's so many characters on the show, we have to tell those stories also. So, but yeah, I think it would have been great to at least get it. It didn't really require a lot of work to show if the app was made or what. But they said we're not going to bother with that, which I think is ridiculous. But yeah, but no, Sebastian is just in on the partnership. He didn't have anything to do with creating the app. So
Okay. Well, I don't know. Like maybe there's something I missed in a previous episode or something. Because sometimes this happens where there's a little brief sentence that's spoken in an episode that leads up to something else, and then because it's a small sentence, we don't even really realize what happened until it happens, and then the commenters are basically telling us that we missed something. But
well, you know what?
Go ahead.
Sorry, I don't want to cut you off. Let me make this comment real quick, and then we got to get Dana's opinion. I think that when Tariq had that conversation with Simon Stern, and Simon Stern was talking about how they used to do their thing back in the day, that's probably where he got the idea, because he was talking about drugs that they were using and stuff like that. So that's probably how he got the idea. But how he modernized it, it would have been good to get a better idea of how that came about, because I don't recall seeing any of that in the previous episodes. But if there are any commenters that did pick up on this stuff in either of the other episodes, please let us know. But I don't recall seeing anything in terms of how this was created. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, because I feel like there could have been at least a scene that was maybe 20 seconds or 20 to 30 seconds in a previous episode that just showed us this process of this app coming it to fruition. That would have given just some more context.
I agree 100%, because they took the same amount of time to actually show you how the app works and how the drugs are connected to certain if someone wants to study math, well, that's what we'll send that person weed, stuff like that. So they definitely could have taken a small amount of time to explain how the app came about. I agree 100% with that.
Yeah, and I don't know, there's a chance this could be a common thing at universities right now, and we just don't know. I don't know, but let us know, commenters, because sometimes they fill in the blanks. But I feel like either way, this could have been set up a lot better. Just so there is some more, substance there. But, what do you guys think of, Sebastian Stern suddenly showing up and everything? You got any thoughts on that, Dana? Do you like the character at all?
Oh, can I go back, because you skipped me during the previous
yeah, of course you can.
Opinion of the app.
Yeah.
Yay, women exist. The concept of a drug app is not new. There were plenty of kids who have done it before. They actually made the news when kid was facing 40 years at the University of Santa Cruz. He had Molly, mushrooms, weed, regular kid stuff. Another one had meth and heroin, which is, I hope you're not taking meth in school. But the concept of a drug app is not anything new. But in terms of this show, I thought it was really smart, and it showed the difference and kind of the similarities between Ghost and Tariq, where yes, they're both drug dealers, but you see the technological differences. Because back then, during that time of Ghost's heightened, drug dealing thing, apps and things was not that huge. At least I don't believe so. The height of his drug dealing. Yes, he could have done it later on, but it just goes to show how Tariq is that kind of forward thinking and how they use modern technology, especially with the concept of a whole college. How you can get a direct line of profit right to the person by simply using an app. I thought that was a really smart thing as well. And the app, by the way, was called Banana Plug, for the real life app. where the kid got indicted for like 40 years.
I know. Like,
So I thought
so
that was really
has
smart.
has there been an app though where it's like you're ordering tutoring from someone?
No, it's not tutoring. It was a gaming app.
Okay.
You would sign up for the game and through a series of combinations order what drugs you wanted.
Right.
It was smart though. Still the same concept, but the tutoring aspect, that was really smart. I like that as well. So I think that it showed, like, that whole forward thinking and use of technology, but it also shows the same mindset that he has of his father. So I really like that. The whole thing with them not showing the app being built is a lot of things this show doesn't show, but there's a lot of things the show does show that nobody really cares about, which is kind of weird. But I think that you just have to assume that it was through the white kid that actually sat down and built this app, because I don't really recall Tariq being more of like a numbers engineer computer guy, unless I missed a whole storyline through Power.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just assume it was the other guy.
Yeah, because that's what I really want to
But
know.
I thought that whole
because I just want to know how the app came about in the first place. Like, because if it was created specifically for Tariq, you could make money off that, and you wouldn't even need to sell drugs. So that's my point with that.
And also, when it comes to app building, it really depends on the basic function and how long it takes. But usually it's months. But I guess in the realm of Power, in the Power universe, remember when they had to go in and rescue Tariq from the kidnapping, and when he got beaten by oranges, and that was like, oh look, in 1 hour, let's raise all this money.
Yeah.
So in the Power universe, we're building an app that takes months in just a matter of 24 hours.
Yeah. So Dana, real quick, if you could, is it possible you could turn the volume down just a little, because we are hearing some feedback here, and maybe changing the volume will kind of improve it a little bit. But so
The
what?
volume has changed.
Perfect. That sounds great. So what do you think of Sebastian himself, like the character?
Sebastian is the guy who was the partners with, right?
So is Stern's partner?
I
Simon
feel
Stern.
that at this Stern's partner. I don't know yet. There's a lot of characters that they keep putting in here. I think we just have to kind of wait and see, but he's a little sneaky. There's a lot of characters that they keep adding on this show.
Yeah, I think overall, me and Rich were talking about this actually. I think they're going for more of like a younger look in the show, like because they're introducing a lot of like, new younger characters.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's supposed to be a college thing, and it has its own voice, but yeah, it's a lot younger.
What was you gonna say, Rich?
Yeah, the point that I was going to make is that when we had our discussion earlier about them going for the younger generation, yeah, what I meant is that they are trying to recreate Power with younger characters in mind, but the characters are in some way related to characters that have already been on the show. So with Simon Stern, you have Sebastian, his partner, who is just as sneaky as he is and willing to do business. And then you also have Riley, which is Sax's niece, which is also doing sneaky things to help out her uncle. So yeah, it pretty much is them, I feel, trying to recreate Power by using younger characters and just overall keeping that vibe going, just to try to make this appear as though it is a new type of show. But yeah, that was the only comment that I was going to make on that, because that's what it felt like to me, even when we was talking on past episodes about Brayden and Tariq, and they had that little handshake. reminded me of Tommy and Ghost. So yeah, that's all it feels like to me. They're just trying to recreate uh, the magic of the other characters that was in the previous Power series, but they're just doing it through characters that are related for like a new generation to characters that have already been on the show.
Yeah, I agree. So, do you think that we're gonna see like more of Stern, like Sebastian Stern, than the actual Stern moving forward?
Yeah, I think that is exactly what the intent was, because they want you to focus on this character, and since this character is dealing with Tariq, that is the equivalent of when James St. Patrick had to deal with Simon Stern. So that's the whole reason of them introducing this other character as someone who you're going to see more often than not. We probably will see Stern again at some point, but for now, when the times we don't see Stern, I guess we're going to see his significant other, Sebastian. So, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and like another thing I'll say as well is like the fact that we're seeing like new and younger, versions of old characters. I feel like those older characters are now, at risk of being killed off the show completely. So, that.
I don't see that. You know why I don't see that? Because we have other spin-offs that's going in the works. So they might just end up drifting over there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's at least, one or two of the older characters that may end up getting killed. I'm not saying all of them. I'm not saying all of them, but some of them are.
Well, hold on. But hold on. I want to hear what Dana has to say. Just a quick question, though. Just out of curiosity, who are these people that you think are going to get killed?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna segue into something, but so I'll let Dana go first.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Like, what was you about to say? What was you about to say, Dana?
I felt that there are kid characters who's more likely to get killed than the adult ones. I mean, if we're drawing a parallel between the first Power series and this one, I feel that's what is it? The guy who's Brandon, right? Is it Brandon? Brayden. Sorry, I feel that Brayden, because of his outrageousness and how he, kind of flaunts everything that he's doing, I feel that he will have to be killed off. Probably by Tariq. Who knows? But yay, Tariq, if he does it. I feel that the guy who is Mary J. Blige's son, who's the hothead, he won't die this season, but eventually he will. I view him as, I don't know, I would say a Dre character, but I just feel that he has to go as well. I also feel Mary has to go, or at least at acting. But yeah, that would be my top 3 so far. Oh, and the girl that Tariq likes has to go.
Oh wow! You think one of his girls are gonna go?
Well, actually, it's two girls. So
but there's one that he likes, and then there's the one that he's likes because of the drug thing.
Oh, okay. Well, we're gonna get all the way into that, so I don't want to get too far ahead just yet. But yeah. So another, those are interesting predictions there, Dana. But let me segue into something I feel it might happen. So the other new character we saw was Riley, who is a younger character, and she is actually Cooper Sax's niece. And we see that she got herself into some trouble and everything, and they bring her into Sax's office so he can deal with her, but then he thinks to use her as a spy, basically, by planting her at the campus and everything where Tariq is, so she can find some dirt or find out something. I don't know, but we see that she kind of strikes some kind of flirtation with Brayden, and she even briefly talks to Tariq and everything, and she takes some photos and everything that end up with Sax. So my thing is so we have a new kind of annoying character who's investigating the main characters, and you could look at it as this is Sax's successor, and this makes me feel like Sax is it's open season on Sax right now. Like, he could die this season, or he could end up in prison. Like, anything could happen. But I don't see Sax being in this show for too much longer, to be honest with you. So, like, I feel like maybe this Riley character has a longer standing in the show than Sax does at this point. And I'm looking at Sax as kind of a sacrificial lamb. I feel like either he's going to be used in the case, to help Tasha, or he may end up, deceased. So, that was the point I was trying to make. But go ahead, Rich.
I just want to make a quick comment on that. It would make sense for that to happen, but because of the circumstances with Tasha, I think because now, well, I don't want to go too far ahead, but I will just say, because that they are building this case against Sax, I could see them being successful in getting Sax as the person that they want to put away, and then he gets killed. So that means now Tasha can't get up. She can't get free because the person they were trying to pin it on has been killed or arrested for whatever reason. So I definitely could see that happening. But we'll see ultimately what path it is that they're going to take. But that's a good point. I definitely could see that character, going away. But we'll see what happens.
So what did you think of Riley and that character?
Well, I think what they're telling you, again, you look at how they introduced the character. She got in trouble, and just like her uncle, who always gets in trouble, it was very clear throughout this whole episode that, like you said, it's open season on Sax because, Method Man, this guy has been going after. They went after Sax this whole episode. They tried to cover every base to get him in trouble. Even talking to Blanco. They tried to do everything they can to try and catch this guy in the lie. So I feel like you said, it's a matter of time before something happens to that character. But when it's going to happen, we'll have to wait and see. But them introducing this Riley character, and then also throwing in the fact that, like you said, she was very flirtatious with Brayden. We don't know if that's going to lead to a relationship between the both of them, or whether or not she's just playing him to get to Tariq, because it looked to me like she was legit interested in Brayden. But again, she has other intentions, but we don't know, because we also know that she's into smoking and stuff like that. And of course, Brayden can give her all the product that she needs if she wants that. So it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic is shifted as the show continues, because she can either, turn on Brayden and Tariq as originally planned, or she can turn on Sax. So, we just have to see how it's all going to play out. But it is good to introduce the character, because we know that Sax has always been somebody who will do whatever he has to do, whether it's legal or illegal, to get what he needs to get. So him employing his own niece to get involved in all of this, it is totally makes sense for the character to do that. So I'm curious to see what the payoff is, but I don't imagine it's going to be positive as far as what actually happens. But we'll see.
Yeah. And what do you think, Dana? Like, any thoughts on Riley, the new
I don't. The thing is, none of this seems legal at all. So if that is the thing, they can easily throw out the case. So I don't understand why he's using her. It's like some weird quest of desperation that is not legal, unless she's actually belongs to the firm, is a PI or whatever. I don't understand why he's using her, and I just kind of feels like it is a not fully thought out plot just to add more characters, and as you said, to kind of play the Stern character. But I also don't see Stern dying. I see him, I can't see him dying.
Wait,
I
Stern
see him,
or Sax?
Sax, sorry.
Okay.
Sax I do see in prison. I can't see him dying yet.
Okay.
And here's the thing, Sax has already proven himself in court to be unreliable and to do things shady and dirty. So I just don't see the whole thing with the niece actually working out in court.
Yeah, like, do we even know what kind of compelled Sax to send his niece on a mission like that? Like, I mean, I know he's been getting pressured by, Method Man's character. So maybe that made him feel like he needed to
Uh,
spy on Tariq because, they're putting so much pressure on him. But was there like a moment that made him think, oh, I need to find out what Tariq's doing or something?
yes, because they want to figure out how is it that Tariq is able to afford Declan McLean. So he's trying to get answers as to how Tariq is making his money so that he's able to keep this lawyer there on the actual case for Tasha. Because they did have that discussion in this episode. They wanted to figure out how is he able to still make this money, and then that was when he decided that he was going to have her try to find out what information she knows about Tariq or whatever she could find out about how he's doing what he's doing right now.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense then. So like my thing is about that is and Rich, we actually, we discussed this episode before recording, and you picked up just like I did the fact that Tariq has become super calculating like the original Ghost.
Yep.
Like he's pretty much Jamie St. Patrick in seasons 1 through 4 of original Power. How he could just outthink everyone. And it seems like Tariq has now suddenly inherited that ability. And I feel like Tariq saw right through Riley, and he knows that she's looking for something. Maybe he doesn't know that she's related to Sax, but I think he knows that she was fishing for something, and he probably saw her, taking pictures and doing all this stuff. And I feel like he is going to, figure out the connection, and he is going to use her against Sax in some way.
You know what? Yeah, I'll agree. And maybe he will be the one that can, if she needs a hit or whatever, he can supply her and tell her, "Oh, I'll get you a whole bunch of weed or whatever, just so long as you remain quiet on all of this stuff." I mean, I don't know, but yeah, like you said, that character definitely is now cold and calculating, which is good, because I would like to hope that in true Power fashion, he starts out that way, but let's not hope it gets to the final season of Power Book 2 Ghost, and then all of a sudden Tariq is very sloppy and just like his father was. So I mean, we'll see if that happens, but yeah, they've made him very cold, calculating, thinking everything through. So obviously, I think the issue comes in. We'll get into this at some point. We're going to get into this when he starts messing around with these different women. I do believe that's going to cause a problem with all of that. So he may lose his focus. But for right now, yes, he is cold and calculating. But I will say one thing about Tariq, and I said this on the very first episode that we recorded for this particular show. The character is still running around, because in this episode he was late once again to that dinner, and the Michael Rainey Jr. running around like he's running a triathlon, trying to hurry up and get to the dinner. So yeah, I hope that they get this kid some type of transportation at some point. He can get around faster.
That age now, right? He can get a call soon, right?
He's 17, as Dana alluded to, and they confirmed in this episode again. So he should be able to get a car at some point. And the next episode is his birthday. So yeah, I would hope that that's going to change at some point, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And you made a good point with the supplying drugs to Riley thing, because the thing is, like, if you have some type of addiction like that, usually that addiction kind of overrules everything. So if she, if it's more beneficial for her to kind of be around Brayden, and be in a relationship with him, and then be close to Tariq and get, drugs easily, she's going to do that, and she's going to keep doing that over, being loyal to Sax. So I feel like that's going to make it easier for them to flip her against him. So yeah, I can kind of foresee something like that occurring. Any thoughts, Dana?
Am I the only one not looking forward to her laced drugs and her having an overdose? Come on
I
Ooh.
now.
know. I'm not looking forward to that either. That's why I hope they don't take that route. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to that either. We've seen that on Snowfall as well, Gary.
Yeah.
We have seen that on Snowfall with a character that everybody liked. So I hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, I agree with you, Dana. I don't want to see that. So hopefully they take it in
I
a different
want to.
direction.
I'm good with that. I'm good.
Oh, you said you want to see it.
I'm good with that route. Like, come on now. It's the easiest way to dispose of her. She has a drug addiction problem. Let's lace the drugs. Oop, it's an
Yeah.
overdose. How sad.
Yeah. I mean, we also saw that happen to Proctor's wife. Yeah.
Well, except for it wasn't laced.
Oh yeah, it wasn't laced, but she just
She
overdosed.
just had an OD and he
Yeah.
didn't help her. This one, we fully lace.
Oh,
She dies
so
in, like,
you
a
want
back
them to
alley.
lace? You want them to like? You want Tariq to be like, yeah, let's lace her drugs. Like
I'm a
you,
terrible person, but I would not mind that.
wow, okay. Dana's back to her the old Dana that used to want everyone dead. You know, remember that? I thought you changed.
Yeah.
I took a break. I never changed. I just took a break.
Okay. So yeah, interesting new characters that they introduced, and we'll see where Sebastian and Riley end up in this season. So yeah, let's get to the legal side of things since we already kind of discussed it a little. So we saw a lot of scenes of Sax and Davis McLean and Blanca going back and forth about some of the things that happened in the previous Power season. And Sax kind of brought up the fact that Blanca, she spoke to Tate and she kind of took him at his word, and that kind of influenced her investigation style. And she was bringing up some of the dirty things that Sax did with planting microphone devices on little girls and everything. So yeah, a lot of dirt is being thrown around, and this is kind of making Davis McLean's defense of Tasha a lot easier. The fact that he has all this information coming in, and then that of course at the end of the episode where we'll talk about that in just a sec, where there's another sex scene, a questionable one, but we'll get to that. But first of all, we see that Declan has this epiphany that they should subpoena, what's her name? I know Rich knows her name.
Tamika.
Tamika. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah. So now they're, subpoenaing Tamika, and she's gonna have to, I guess, speak in front of a judge about, what she witnessed happening. And I believe in a previous episode she mentioned that she hasn't been asked to talk about these things about Sax in front of a judge officially, but if she ever is, then she has to be honest. I think she said that to Sax himself. So now we're gonna see that happen. So that's gonna be interesting. Go ahead, Rich.
By the way, I just will make a comment. That was a very funny scene how she got subpoenaed. You get a delivery, flowers, and it says, "Oh, you've been served." That was hilarious.
Yeah. Like you guys in America are savage with that serving stuff, man, because that doesn't happen too often over here. So the legal game in America is ruthless and cutthroat. I just want to say
Absolutely.
that. But that's why I love watching legal dramas, and I'm glad that they're showing more of that in this show. Like, I find that stuff interesting, and I have to say Method Man is doing a great job as McLean as well. But what did you guys think of all of these legal proceedings this week? Like, did anything stand out to you at all, or do you have any specific thoughts about it? So Dana, anything? You're
Sorry,
muted.
it was muted the whole time. No, I think this is gonna just keep up the case that's with Tasha and her situation, but I don't really see it going anywhere. That's what the weird thing is right now. The fact that she was subpoenaed to me really wasn't that surprising. I mean, they're trying to grasp at anything that they can. So it makes sense to me. But I do have a question. Do they not have subpoenas in the UK where you're at?
They have an equivalent. Now, I don't know all of the legal jargon. Like, I would say I know more American terms than British terms when it comes to that, because I read a lot of legal thrillers and stuff by American authors. When it comes to legal stuff in the UK, like, there are lawsuits and stuff, but usually they're all business related. Like, we don't really have a lot of, like, personal lawsuits and things of that nature, like civil lawsuits and things like that. I mean, they happen, but it's not to the extent it happens to you guys. So, it's not, basically it's not as interesting. Like, it's just kind of plain, it's like our legal proceedings are very plain and just ordinary, whereas yours, like, because they're so cutthroat, it makes it kind of interesting. So a lot of people follow, legal stuff in America as opposed to over here. But
Didn't know that.
yeah, so, but yeah, one thing I also wanted to bring up was, your boy Rashad Tate was in this as well, and there was an excellent line. I don't know if you saw that dialogue at the end with Courtney Kemp at the end of the episode.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
Yeah, she spoke about it, and yeah, I did love that scene as well. There was like a brief moment where, after questioning Tate and watching him kind of lie and dance around the questions, McLean kind of pulls him to the side and he says, "You a lying ass N-word." So that was hilarious. But what did you guys think of Tate's return to this show, and does it get you more anticipated for his own show that's going to happen inevitably? Go ahead, Dana. I'll come to you next, Rich.
It doesn't really make me like extremely excited for the fact that I'm already looking forward to him and his show, because you've seen the characteristics of basically being a sleazy politician and him never giving, straightforward answers. So, and this, it just kind of prepares us for what's to come, but we kind of already knew it was coming. But as Courtney Kemp said, Lorenz Tate is a great actor, and he can play this role very well, and it's entertaining. And there are moments when the character can shine through, and for me, we knew this already, that he was going to be entertaining. We already knew he was sleazy, and that people cannot stand him, and that makes for a very compelling show.
Exactly, I agree. So, Rich, any thoughts about, Tate scene, or you can also chime in about, any of the legal proceedings as well.
Well, in terms of the legal proceedings, I just feel that this is they're taking the scenic route with the storyline, because they're trying to uncover everything that they can get on Sachs to prove why he should not be involved in doing anything with this case. So this is to prolong the story a lot longer. And I'm fine with that, because it was entertaining in terms of the exchanges that happened. And then you saw how he was able to, get himself out of the Blanca explanation as well as the Tate explanation. So he is going to slip up at some point, and I'm just curious to see how that's going to come about. Obviously, with Tamika, that's definitely a big thing right there. So we'll look forward to seeing that happen. As for Tate being involved, I think we knew when we saw Tate in the second episode at Jamie's funeral. We figured that character was going to probably be utilized more than once this season. I believe. So, I mean, yeah, I'm a Lorenz Tate fan. He's worked on a lot of movies that I have enjoyed. So I obviously 100% want to see more of Tate and what they do with the character. But I think that show is I don't know when that show is coming, because it is another show that is currently being planned in production. but they haven't really announced when that's starting because they're working on the Kanan show as well as Tommy spinoff right now. So they have enough time to really. You don't need to rush to make that show happen immediately. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what happens next with this character and how he uses his his corrupt means to constantly escape trouble each and every episode.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really like the little things that just make Tate's characters so compelling to watch, because it's like, in one scene earlier in this episode, you had him talking to the Democrat guy and John Mock, and he was basically saying, yeah, like Jamie St. Patrick was he was a dirty scumbag drug dealer, murderer, and all this stuff, right? And then when he's sitting in front of the judge being questioned, he's like, oh, James is nothing but an upstanding businessman, So it's little things like that that just really make him a spectacle to watch, because he does carry off that sleazy politician character very well, and I can't wait to see that. It's like it's. I mean, I don't want to compare it to House of Cards really, but it's going to be its own unique special thing to watch, I think. So
yeah, I agree.
So yeah, I can't wait to see that. So let's address the elephant in the room with Davis MacLean. So yeah, there was a scene towards the end of this episode where we see that Davis MacLean and his partner, I forgot her name, maybe Rich knows.
Paula,
there you go. Yeah.
Yep.
So after seeing them work together in a professional manner over the past 3-4 episodes, we see they have a cool working relationship, and that's great to see two professional people working together. But then we see them in bed with their clothes off, and then you have Paula handing Davis MacLean his ring and telling him you don't want to forget this, your wife might notice or whatever. So I just want to go to you guys and ask you guys, like, what did you guys think of that? And was this something you guys could have foreseen happening, or like just let me know how you feel about it. So I'm gonna go to you first, Rich. What did you think of that scene?
Well, in the history of Power, I know that they have tried to make sure that a lot of the characters on the show, for whatever reason, at some point they have to have sex, and you have to see them, unclothed and stuff like that. I will say this: Method Man, this guy has a crazy fitness routine, so I may have to get on a fitness routine to have to get muscles and stuff like he has. So I give him props on working out, taking care of himself, health wise, etc. But to know that the character is cheating on his wife, that's I do feel like right now, obviously, it doesn't matter. They did mention it, with the whole ring situation and his exchange with Paula. But the one thing that stood out to me in this episode was that Paula did try to reach out to Tariq in this episode to try and find out how he was getting this money. And then when he told her, came up this whole lie about, yeah, I stole it from my grandmother. And then she sees that he now has access to a gun. And she's been constantly telling MacLean, we should be concerned about this. We should be concerned about this. What I'm curious to see what's going to happen now is that obviously she's totally okay right now with being a side chick to MacLean. But if something was to happen, and she all of a sudden is angry that she's in that position, and that maybe MacLean made a promise to her that he was going to leave his wife at some point or another. What I'm curious to see how that's going to impact what's happening now in this case, because obviously it's a complicated situation. She could mess up the case if she has feelings that MacLean doesn't want to take their relationship serious, and he doesn't want to be with her, or all stuff like that. But at the same time, that would also mess up both of them, because they're taking money where they don't really know where it's coming from. So that's why I said I'm curious to see how they're going to tell that story. In a lot of movies and TV shows, we have seen people have affairs, and usually 9 times out of 10, it does not end well. So I do want to see how this storyline is going to progress, because I feel like they hint to that, as things start to get more erratic with Tariq, his business dealings start to get a lot more dangerous. That could put a lot of people in jeopardy, including Davis and Paula. So I'm very curious to see how that's going to spiral to the next level, because I feel like we got enough teasers in this episode that she's very concerned about Tariq. So that is definitely going to be an issue, I feel, moving forward. But how they tell it, that's what's going to be what I want to see as far as what the writers bring to the story. I don't want to see something that has already been done in a generic way on another TV show. They have to really think through how they're going to do that if they are going to approach it from that angle. But in terms of the relationship stuff, yeah, I mean, I wasn't surprised with the sex scene. I feel like a lot of this stuff, I guess, is expected. And whenever you watch The Power coming on and you see the rating of the episode where it says explicit because of nudity and stuff like that, you already know there's going to be a sex scene in that episode. So I'm not really surprised about the sex scene. The context of explaining that, I feel like it's okay to introduce it into the storyline, but there has to be a reason for it. Like I said, if this relationship becomes a problem later, and involving Tariq, and that leads to both of them having a falling out, then it makes sense for the storyline. But if it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of the actual telling the story, then I don't know why it would be in the show. So we have to see what path they're going down when they decide to do these type of things.
Yeah, I see your point with that. Dana, how did you feel about that? That little kind of romantic relationship between McLean and Paula.
I don't believe I'm supporting the show. This is ridiculous. I don't have a problem with the scene because it just further shows the sliminess of his character. So that didn't bother me. Again, Power is known for their scenes, and this also goes with HBO. And every other show that's on these subscription channels. So it just doesn't bother me. Maybe I'm desensitized. But I just thought that, in terms of just storylines, there's a lot of characters overall that's going on. And I feel that they can cut down scenes that does not, for that episode, kind of further drive the story. But for this character, I do feel that scene was just needed so you could just show how grimy and sleazy he really is.
Fair enough.
Yeah. And just to piggyback off of what Dana said, I know that we said on previous episodes we wanted to see more of what is going on in McLean's personal life. So we got that answer, and she is 100% right to further show you how slimy the character is. So yes, it achieved that goal 100%.
Yeah, no, I agree. It definitely makes his character look more sleazy and everything, and it serves that, and it gives us more of his personal life and everything. So on that note, cool. But I have a couple things I do want to say though about that. And first of all, before I get into how I think it should have played out. But first of all, we are already kind of, seeing another kind of sexual relationship play out in this series with the teachers. And we are going to get to that as well. But, we're seeing that happen and play out. So to me, I kind of felt like, we didn't need to kind of see something like this right after, because it's like you're having these two, and these are new characters, two new couples essentially who are working together in a professional setting. And my thing is with that, it's like it sets a precedent that men and women can't work together without there being some sort of sexual tension. And I think we can. I think men and women can have a cool professional relationship without, getting to that point. And I just feel like, I mean, why can't, Declan McLean just be a cool black man who's a little sleazy, but he's a cool, lawyer and everything, and he's kind of doing things the right way, but he's just a little sleazy. And, why does that woman have to, be sleeping with him? Like, why? And, that's just my thing about it. Go ahead.
I think that is an excellent point. And if I was a part of the writing team under Courtney Kemp, I'm pretty sure her answer would be, well, we have to reveal that every character has a secret. Because it appears like in this episode there was a lot of secrets revealed. We'll get into that other stuff later. But yeah, I mean, that is essentially why I think they did that, because they want to show every person has something about them that makes them vulnerable or makes them not appear to be who they are. So I guess again, to really drive the point home that Dana said about Declan being a sleazy character, they wanted to really show you, yes, he's also doing this as well. But I agree 100% with what you said. It is a cop-out to have the exact same relationship going on with the teachers and the lawyers, because, yes, they are working together. So I think you made a very, very good point with that. But I guess, again, it is to keep people's eyes on the show, to develop some type of drama and scandal to keep viewers watching, because they know, I'm pretty sure Power knows. Everyone talks about the sex scenes. They talk about the relationships that the characters have. So as long as they have that on the show, they feel that's going to keep people watching. And it's definitely going to keep people talking, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to be talking about these particular scenes on the show this week. But yeah, that's what my guessing is, as to how they approach it. They just said, we need to reveal every character has a secret, and that's why we have to have McLean involved in this relationship as well. But we'll see.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that up, because I do have something to kind of bounce off of that point with, because I did see that Courtney Kemp kind of said in her live, she had like a little Q&A live, and she said she likes flawed characters and things like that. So that kind of serves into why they took this direction. But I want to say this though, since we're already, kind of seeing that with the teachers, like they're already knee deep into this sexual relationship, what I would have liked to have seen with this approach with Declan and Paula is a more kind of build up approach, where you show us like the beginnings of it happening, kind of thing, like of them starting to kind of, spend more time together, and then gradually start to kind of develop some sort of feelings together. And then we see the origins of this happening, instead of, they're just already smashing and it already is this way and he's already unfaithful. I would have liked to instead have just kind of seen it develop. I think that would have been a nice contrast to what's happening with the teachers.
Well, let me make this comment real quick, and I want you to go to Dana, because I definitely want to hear what Dana has to say. The reason why, what you said about the build-up, that did happen, Gary, but it happened off camera. So we I guess we wasn't meant to see any of that stuff happening.
That's my point. Like, show us how this happened instead, because we already kind of see this with the teachers, right? So like, make it different. Like, let us see the build up of this one. Make it be like a more sentimental, long-standing, sensual thing between them.
Yeah.
And maybe I could have, I would have been all right with that, if they just, put some more time into it. But go ahead, Dana, let us know what you think.
Sensual? Did you really say sensual?
Yeah, sensual.
Yo, I cannot with the both of you. One, Richard, during the last Power thing, you was so excited to see these scenes. You would just get so happy. I'm shocked by your reaction. And
Who,
Gary,
Rich?
Rich.
Okay.
He was so excited. He's like, yeah, woo.
Well, let me respond to that real quick. I only was excited because I want to see how ridiculous they're going to make the scene. Like, they have to. It's not like a standard sex scene. It's over the top with all this ridiculous stuff that they always bring. So I see it only so I could laugh at how over the top they are. But no, continue.
You was excited. Excited. He was like, "Where is it? Oh my gosh, we didn't have anything this season. I'm upset." You was excited. So don't even. And as for you, Richard, you really said you wanted sensual?
Oh no, Gary. You mean Gary?
Gary wanted sensual, and
Yeah.
you complained about there being too much. This is hilarious to me. Now I forgot what I was originally supposed to talk about. What
No,
was the question?
just give us your response to what we said, basically, which is what you're already doing.
Yeah,
Oh
with the
yeah,
yeah,
that's what I'm doing. So boom. Also, wait, did we get to the teachers yet, or are we not talking about that scene?
We'll get to that
we're almost
next.
there. Almost
Okay,
there.
that's what she said.
Wait, what? That went over my head. What happened?
Nothing, Gary. It wasn't sensual. No, nothing.
Yeah, I need it sensual. Then I'll understand. All right, yeah. So should we just get into the teachers? Did you have something you was gonna say about that?
Oh no, go right into the teachers.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
go ahead, Rich.
Yeah. I was going to say let her start with her thoughts on the teachers. But yeah, after you give your say what you was going to say, go to her first.
We'll do. Okay. So yeah, I mean, we see they arrange for this kind of dinner, I guess, to happen, and Tariq kind of invites himself. I guess he said he wants to be involved because they are what is it they're planning? They're planning some there's some kind of thing they're doing. I completely forgot. But yeah, there's some kind of thing that's going to help them, maybe skip a year or something like that, or spend less time at school, kind of thing.
So let me just throw this quick point in there. It's the Canonical Studies retreat program in which when someone wins the scholarship, I guess they go to DC.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what Lauren and Tariq are competing for, apparently, as we learned in this episode. Because Lauren, the whole point of the dinner was so that they can talk with her family and say why they think she's a good candidate for that program. That's what that was all about. And they just had Tariq and Carrie attend just for optics, as Jabari said, for optics.
Right. Yeah. So that's what it was. And Tariq, his mother is in prison and his dad is dead. So, so yeah, like they were at the dinner. And throughout the whole thing, Jabari and Carrie, they're both kind of throwing these little snappy comments at each other, because obviously there's that tension there between them that we've seen previously, and we saw last week that Carrie saw that she heard that Jabari was with another student, the grad student and everything, so she's kind of letting loose, and she makes some underhanded comments about his book, and as someone who writes books, that kind of stuff really hurts. So I feel for Jabari, I really do. But yeah, so yeah, like that scene was hilarious. I actually really liked that scene. Like that was funny because they were kind of just bickering the whole time. And then we see they take it back to the the school, the office, and everything, and they're kind of going at it, arguing with each other, and then of course that it happens. We see, another sex scene of Jabari and Carrie. So, I want to ask you guys, where is this going now? Like, are they like back together now? Are they gonna keep, doing this routine? And is Jabari still gonna keep seeing students, or is Carrie gonna see a student? What would you guys think of, the latest with these two characters? So go ahead, Dana. You're muted.
I am muted again. Okay, so I thought this was the most entertaining thing I've ever seen. Not ever seen, but of this episode. It was so petty and juvenile and just hilarious because they just kept going back and forth with each other at the dinner, and it was so unprofessional, and they had all these underhand comments and snide remarks, and I said that this teacher would not forgive him for this, and that I said she would be all stinky and petty the entire time when they met up again. I was right, so yay me. Just just the fact the whole dinner thing was just funny. They was trying to be professional, and they kept going at each other. The whole scene of the sex of what they did, it was really poorly shot.
Oh yeah,
Pacing was all
you wanted some different angles or something.
well. I helped you with your stuff. So the thing was that it was poorly shot. The scene itself kind of dragged on, and even with the dinner scene, there could have been some really tight editing that went off. Her being mad and basically stripping him of his clothes, and he was just really butt naked. I'm not even sure they locked the door, but that
They
whole
never
scene.
looked cool.
They never locked the door, and it was like a house full of it. Anyway, that scene itself was just not done very well. Um, and I don't know where they're going with this. More importantly, I don't care. These are characters that I don't really feel I should care about. Yes, it's okay to have here's a teacher, and they may be bickering with their students, or you may show a scene of them bickering with each other, but this is not a relationship that I give a flying fart about. It has nothing. And maybe later on it might further the show, but right now I don't feel anything. They're coming across as a bunch of emotional teenagers. At least she is an emotional you know girl who's like, oh my god, you spoke to Becky, what are you? And then she goes and sleeps with him. I don't understand what the end game is. I don't understand her end game. So it was unnecessary, that I will agree with. But overall, you got to tighten up that script, and you got to tighten up the scenes, the editings.
Yeah, because I can kind of agree with you there, because it's like lately, I mean, we've seen some character development with Jabari in previous episodes, but we haven't really seen any development with Carrie. So it just kind of seems like her whole purpose is just to love Jabari, like, or just to be intimate with him. So I kind of.
But I don't even see love. I just see like, oh, we're together. I want to bang you, and then I'm mad that you're banging other people.
Yeah,
and I know that they had a relationship before. It doesn't even, you know what I mean? It doesn't even touch upon that. It just seems like, yeah, it's just odd.
Yeah, I understand that they're kind of they only have a set amount of time that they can show things in the episode. But I feel like they need to, if they're gonna keep doing this with the teachers, they need to kind of flesh them out a little bit more and do what Dana said and just show us a bit more of this relationship instead of just like the sex part, because lately it just seems like that's all that character does with Carrie, and they haven't even shown her caring about Tariq or her students more like she did in the first episode. So show us a little more at this point, because it's getting kind of old now. But at the same time, I did really enjoy that dinner. Like I thought that was great. But yeah, Rich, what's your thoughts?
First and foremost, let me say I really, really like everything that Dana had to say. So I'm just going to add a few quick points in here. I also enjoyed the dinner scene. I especially loved the comment that Carrie made, that Jabari has a real hands-on approach with his students. I couldn't stop laughing at that one, because yeah, that's 100% accurate. I do agree that yes, what's going on between them is very juvenile. It's a toxic relationship, I guess you could say. But this is what my thought is. I think when Courtney Kemp decided to cast these characters as well as other characters, she also is acknowledging, well, these are some pretty attractive people, and I'm pretty sure that maybe there are some male or female fans out there that would love to see these characters with less clothes on. So that's why we need to make sure we have these characters in sex scenes, even though it's not 100% necessary. And I'm pretty sure she thought that to a certain degree. But I also agree. I don't really care about the characters. And the only way that I could see them making this be something of an issue is that, again, it falls on Tariq and pretty much how they are viewing and treating the character. Obviously, Carrie is a teacher that is concerned about Tariq, would help him out. And I feel that Jabari also is the same way, but he's a lot stricter in how he does things. So if the only way I could say that they would explain as this being important to the storyline is if they have constant tension on how they are dealing with Tariq and how he's handling his curriculum. That's the only way that I could think about it. But still, I don't really know exactly how that's going to be done. But one thing I will say in terms of Dana's comments about the how the scene was shot, I agree 100%. I'm also going to take this moment to say that I really don't understand why every time there is a sex scene, why do we need to see the bare ass of the male that is involved in the sex scene? I understand you want it to be. I understand you want it to be realistic, right? You want to give the viewer the idea that they are really having sex. But as a man myself, I don't want to see another man's bare ass in every sex scene. I mean, that's a little ridiculous. But yeah. Just in general, I don't really care about the characters. Don't really care about what's happening with the characters. They have to make me have a concern for how it's connected to the storyline with Tariq. But that's it. But yes, the dinner scene was entertaining. Was the sex scene necessary? No, it was not. And the last point that I do want to add. Last week we spoke when Jabari was messing around had sex with the grad student. And Carrie heard that he was messing around with somebody, but it was never really revealed it was the grad student to her. I find it funny how all of a sudden, off camera, once again, this happened off camera, I guess, she came to the realization he messed around with a grad student because she already brought it up in this episode to say, yes, and I'm not someone that sleeps around with my students. So I think that's a little ridiculous how she was able to figure that out with no explanation whatsoever. You just have to assume she heard he was having sex and she assumed that it's a student, but there was no explanation on any of that stuff. So I don't like when they do stuff and it happens off camera with no explanation. So I have to criticize that for sure. But other than that, don't care about the characters. But we'll see if they make me care about them moving forward.
Yeah, you make some great points. Yeah, yeah, like I agree with you. You know, as a man, there are certain things I really don't want to see, and in this episode, there was a whole lot of things I didn't want to see. But that's another story. But yeah, so you know, since we're kind of there, you know, there was kind of a lot of love things going on, and before we talk about the elephant in the room, let's get to Tariq. You know, because the love triangle is in full effect now. And you know, we saw that, you know, in that scene we were just talking about with, you know, Lauren and her parents, you know, they kind of excused themselves from the table because the teachers were bickering, and then they went upstairs to Lauren's room, and then, you know, this we kind of learned that she, you know, I think it was hinted to before, but she has a boyfriend and everything. And, you know, they were just kind of talking in her room. And she was kind of getting Tariq to open up about his thoughts and feelings about his father being killed and everything like that. And it led to a pretty intimate moment where, you know, they got real close to each other and their lips met. And yeah, I think that was kind of well done, because I've been waiting to see where it's gonna go between these two. And yeah, I kind of like that. Like that was a cool scene. But then we also see in this episode that, you know, the other girl, remind me of her name again. Diana. Diana. Okay, yeah. So she shows up on campus because, you know, her brother was actually meant to be checking on Tariq to see how he's moving the product and everything. And we're gonna get to that also, but yeah, Diana shows up, and she brings some more product for Tariq, you know, and yeah, we see that she gets into his room, and they end up kissing as well. So I want to ask you guys, based on those two scenes, who does it feel like he has a deeper connection with, to you? And go ahead, Rich, since you unmuted first.
Well, I definitely feel that it's Lauren, because you go back to the scene towards the end of the episode after, because you did bring up the fact that her boyfriend Malcolm showed up at the dinner, right? Um,
Yeah.
and of course, it's funny how, again, we spoke about this before. When they talk about the books that Tariq is reading, it parallels with the plot and what's going on, what the character is thinking, how he figures he's not worried about competition. And you saw at the end of the episode, he told her he doesn't mind competing because he know that he did acknowledge that they both have options, but he was very clear when he said he doesn't mind competing because he know that no one's gonna outdo him when it comes to getting into the canonical studies program and getting you. So I think Tariq obviously is a lot more interested in Lauren, because when he had the moment with Diana, Diana is the one that initiated the kiss. When they first met, she was the one that was interested in him right away. So I feel like he would entertain that for sure. There is obviously some interest in Diana as well, but if you was to tell me who is he most interested in based off of what happened this week, I think it's definitely Lauren. So that's good, because I didn't really get that feeling prior to this episode, because it felt like every time she wanted to get close to him, he was just closed off and he was always busy doing other stuff. But in this episode, she reveals the secret that she actually does like him, and I think, yeah, he was interested, but we didn't really get an inkling of that to that degree anyway, until this episode. But yeah, I think he's more interested in Lauren than Diana. But again, it's a complicated situation because he's working with Monet, and that's her daughter. So now it's an issue. I mean, but again, I don't know, man. It's complicated because they did bring up when he spoke to Diana in this episode how he did tell Zeke previously he wanted to ask permission to date her as well. So I don't really know what Tariq is, where his mind is at. It's confusion. But obviously he's interested in both. But if I had to say who he's most interested in, it's probably Lauren, because that was the first one that he met of the two of them. But that's just my guess.
Yeah. It could be a situation where it's like he couldn't, before this episode, he couldn't kind of gauge her interest level in him. He kind of just went with Diana. But now he kind of knows that there's some connection there. So it's like, now he's kind of feeling that situation a bit more with Lauren. So maybe that's the case. But Dana, what did you think of that? Which one does he have like a stronger connection to, do you think? You're muted as well.
Freaking hack. Always muted. Okay, so with this whole thing, I think that he truly likes the smarter girl, the girl who's like into her studies and books and everything, and that he is using the other girl in order to get what he needs from her. If you go back with the prince, remember they was talking about Machiavelli and the prince?
Yeah.
The prince is basically, what it's known for is the ends justify the means, which means that you'll do anything you can to conquer different territories and to take that over. And remember, he was like, oh, it's about a sociopath. And he was like, no, I think he was very calculating and very smart about what he did.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I truly feel. I feel that he really likes that girl who's like really into her studies and can get into his mind on an intellectual level, but he's using the other girl just so that he can get what he needs out of it, ship his products, get his business, building up. And so he's willing to use her and to make her feel a certain way. Whether or not that backfires, most likely it will. Who's to say that she won't attack the other girl? We don't know yet. But I do feel that that is kind of where he's at right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I like how you brought up the the sociopath versus the calculated figure, because that does play into it, because there's different benefits he gets from being with both of them. So that is and that's kind of how they're kind of painting Tariq at the moment, as being more calculating. So yeah, that's a pretty interesting theory there. So, like, how do you think it's gonna end up with the fact that Rich brought up that scene that happened at the end where, of course Tariq is talking to Lauren and she sits far across the room when she gets into the classroom, and then he goes over to her and he's like, "Why are you sitting so far away?" And then they bring up the whole thing about her boyfriend showing up, and Tariq says he's okay with it, and he understands that there's you gotta play the game basically. Like you get a benefit from being with that guy because he's super smart or whatever. But as long as you and I have our own kind of connection, it's cool. And then she sees that he gets a text from Diana, and she asks about that, and he says, you all play the game, right? So yeah. So how do you think that's gonna end up? Is it gonna be a situation where he has this understanding with Lauren, where they're kind of committed to these other relationships, but then they're also connected to each other in private kind of thing? Do you think that's how it's going to play out, or is there going to be a lot of messy feelings between him and Lauren and Diana? So what do you think? Any thoughts, Dana, since you're unmuted?
Well, basically, it goes back to what I just previously said. You have to play the game and deceive people as much as you can in order to get what it is that you need. So I think there's an understanding between the both of them. And maybe later on in the season or even next season, that's when the whole feelings will get serious and they'll have to figure out more things. But right now, I do see it as, them continuing their friendship. It maybe not cross the line right now. They do have feelings for each other. It's an understanding.
Okay, and Rich, how do you feel about that same question?
Yes, as you mentioned, the cold and calculating Tariq is now this is the reformed character that we are getting a chance to look at here. There is no label on what he has with either one of them now, so I feel like this is just going to keep the viewer guessing as to which one he ultimately chooses to be with. There is going to be some more tension because we did see in the episode next week again, he is in a situation where they are both, in close proximity with him. So we have to see how it goes. But again, this is only in there to give the viewers something to keep guessing as to which path Tariq is going to go down and which woman is he ultimately going to choose to be with. So obviously there are other secrets that Lauren may have that we knew about the boyfriend. We don't know anything else about the character. One thing I do want to mention though, and I don't want to go back to this topic fully, but I just want to make this comment. When Carrie had the conversation with Jabari, and she basically insinuated the fact that he was going to try and do something with Lauren, I believe that was 100% accurate, because if you recall when they had the conversation in class at the very beginning, and she was talking about, yes, I would love to talk with you off campus about this opportunity for dinner. He was like, oh, where hold on. So where do you want to go? And then she says, to my parents' house. He's like, oh, yeah, right, sure. That's exactly what we should do. So yeah, that character's just, I don't like that teacher. But we'll see what happens with Lauren and Diana. But yeah, right now it's a guessing game as to which one Tariq is going to choose to be with. But for now, I think as long as he feels he has control of the situation, he's just going to try and get the benefits from the both of them, just like Dana said. So we'll see.
Okay. And, I do want to ask an additional question here. So throughout the original Power show, we saw that when Jamie St. Patrick kind of chose Angela and they got together officially and everything, Tariq was very angry about this and he started acting out. And in some of the later episodes, after him and Angela kind of broke up, Tariq was still very angry about it, and he blamed his dad for, basically splitting up the family and everything like that. So I want to ask you guys, now that Tariq is in his own kind of love triangle, do you think that he might have a moment of realization that actually, it's not easy to choose between two women like that, and maybe he'll kind of see how difficult it was for his father. Do you think he'll have a moment like that? So go ahead, Rich. You can answer first.
That's a great question. I feel like he needs to have a moment like that to further understand some of the things that his dad went through. Do I think that that's going to happen? Well, I think he's definitely going to make a lot of mistakes and with both of them, and that may be teachable moments for him. I don't know if we're ever going to see him come to the realization of what his dad went through on camera, unless they have ghosts appear as a ghost and try to talk with his son or whatever. I mean, I don't know about that, but I feel like he does need to come to that realization so that he'll be more understanding of the struggle that his dad dealt with, especially since when he shot Jamie, he brought up the fact that, yes, this is how mad I was. This is all because of how you made us feel when you chose Angela over Mom. So I feel like the character does need to come to that realization at some point, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll let Dana go first. Go ahead, Dana. Any thoughts on do you think Tariq will have a moment of realization like that?
He's 17 and selfish and still self-centered. No, this is a 17-year-old boy, not a 65-year-old man reflecting on his life and his choices. Absolutely not. This is fresh love and spring chickens and all that mess. No.
Okay, because I'm just thinking if this triangle gets more intense to the point where he has to make a real decision, surely that will kind of bring some callbacks to the moment his father split up the family.
Well, he's a kid in a kid relationship, not a grown man in a marriage with a mortgage and kids. He's a kid.
It doesn't need to be a marriage for him to kind of just reflect, because sometimes I situations happen to me and I get like a flash of, how my grandmother would have handled this, or my granddad, or whatever, it's like...
He was cheating, is what you're saying, and you had to let down all the loves of your lives.
Okay. Well, so you think he's just young and he's just having fun, he's not thinking about anything. So.
No, these are not lifelong commitments. This is college.
Yeah, I mean, you could be right. People don't think when they're young. So.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick comment. To go to what you said about when Tariq got jealous because he got angry because Jamie chose Angela over Tasha. Mm-hmm. I do feel that if Tariq ultimately chooses Lauren, which I do think is going to end up happening, I do think that Diana and or Kane are going to be angry about that. And that may set up, when you asked the question last week, do you think that Kane will work well with Tariq? That may set things up where now Kane has an issue with Tariq and wants to beat him down because he hurt his sister or something like that. Or Diana is going to be the one that is going to have a hard time really getting over Tariq because she was the one that showed interest in him first. So to be told, no, you can't mess around with me, I just feel like it's either going to be her or Kane that will be angry if he ultimately doesn't decide to date Diana. So that's just my thought.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot, I mean, I don't know how exactly they're going to do it, but I do think there's, some of these feelings are going to cause a lot of reactions from people. So I can't wait to see how all of that plays out. But since we're kind of going into Diana and her brothers, let's talk about Drew. So in this episode, Monet kind of she wants to understand more about how Tariq runs his business. So she makes the decision to send Drew. Of course, the others offer to go, Diana and Kane, but she chooses Drew to go. And, yeah, so he turns up at the university and everything, and immediately Tariq knows why he's there. That he's trying to spy on him and keep an eye on him and see how he's operating and everything. So he kind of shadows him to a class, and I still don't know how that happens, but okay. They go to his art class and everything, and Drew kind of takes to one of the students. They do some art together, and then they end up in a room together, and we begin to see this love scene, and we have a realization about Drew's character, and I want to ask you guys what you thought of that direction with Drew, and did you looking back, like after you saw that and you look back at how he was acting in the previous episodes, did it make sense to you for them to go that direction with him being a gay character? So Dana, what did you think about that?
I'm torn because one, this is how you drive, a story, and this is how you drive the character. And looking back I would not have said gay, because then that would be an insult in the form of, oh, this is his personality, so therefore he has to be gay. But I do like the fact that the story overall went there with this character, and this adds another layer to him. I probably am the only one who really appreciates that. But here's also the other thing. I do feel that this show overall is trying to throw everything at us in hopes that something sticks. It feels like it's an episode of WWE. It's like, that one's gay, and Mario's over here, and then look, we have 80 more characters we just introduced to kind of, try to get us excited for something. But overall, in how they approach this, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I do have something to say about that. What you said about them trying to throw everything. But I'm gonna let Rich go first. So Rich, what's your thoughts on the revelation of Drew being gay, and when you look back, does it make sense now for his character?
So when I look back, that's not something that I immediately thought of with this character. So it was a bit of a revelation, but I knew that from the minute that he walked into the art class and he saw the other guy. The way that they had their interaction, it was very clear that something was going to happen with that. But just to touch on what I think about that concept, I definitely think that I will agree that representation matters. I think it will matter more if it doesn't feel that it is forced into something. And obviously, maybe they had an intent to always have a character like this in the show. I mean, they've already had characters on this show before that are gay, because Blanca had a wife, and Simon Stern actually is married to a guy now. He had a wife before that. So that's not what the issue is here with me. The issue that I have with how you introduce this with the character is that we already have told the story that the character is uneasy about being a tough guy like his brother is and like his dad is, in these situations where you have to be a tough guy dealing with these type of criminals. I don't like, and then, you had the dialogue that Mary J. Blige had, Monet had with her son about, yes, you have to remember that you are part of this game. So anyone that you bring into this, they are going to be impacted by this as well. So she acknowledges that something happened at the school with him and another guy. Now, I do have a comment to make about that, but I'll get it. Let me stay on point first, quick. The only issue I have with, I'm totally fine if the character is gay. I don't have a problem with that, because we've seen that in a lot of shows. What I don't like is when you attach it to, this is an explanation as to why the character is looked as being soft. We have an excellent actor, and Michael K. Williams, who has played characters in the past that, yes, they were gay, but the character was still a tough guy. Because you think about The Wire, the way they presented him in The Wire, and then in his new show, Lovecraft County, he plays a very secretive father, but he's very strong-willed in his actions and stuff like that. So it's like, I don't have a problem with the character being gay, but I think it's a little ridiculous that you're saying that the character is soft. So that is an indication of why the character is gay. I don't like that, because it's still possible for somebody to be a strong-willed, tough character, even though they like someone of the same sex as them. So that was my only issue with that, of how they're making that an explanation. Now, obviously, they're going to reveal more about the character, and then they're going to peel layers back, because now he's going to deal with that situation. I'm pretty sure he is going to be in a relationship with this character, which is all that is fine. This is the world we live in today. It's totally fine for people to love who they want to love, so on and so forth. So I don't have an issue with that. I don't like how it's being used to describe why the character is weak-willed to deal in this type of business type of stuff. And this is the one point that I want to make before we go to you about the criticisms. Now, when he met the character at the art class, and I can say this because I went to school for film animation video. I have been to drawing classes where, obviously if I am a student in the class, I have never seen the teacher let someone come in as a guest and then just start drawing with the other students. I have never seen that. So that right there, I didn't understand that explanation. I understand that I've seen people come into my classes and they can observe, but never also drawing with the students. That I've not seen that happen at all. So that was I didn't like that too much. And then the other criticism is that when he started drawing the picture, you could see that he was clearly drawing the picture of the guy's face. Yet later on, when he's taking a shower and his mom is looking through his notepad, there's a drawing of, I guess, the guy's, his arm and his chest. When did that drawing happen? That must have happened off camera, because it didn't happen when they was in the class. It could have happened, when they had their little scene. You never know about that. But that was my only criticism of all of that, because if you're going to introduce these things, it needs to make sense as what the viewer is seeing. So when Monet saw the drawing, it should have been the exact same drawing that he did when he was in the class. That's why I say that right there of stuff happening off camera, I don't like when I see that happening, because this has been happening a lot often in the show recently. But it is what it is. But surprisingly, yes, that's the only real criticism I have. As far as them taking this path of having this love scene between the two guys, I could understand. I will say this: there's probably a lot of fans that didn't want to see that, because when you think about Power, whenever they've had a sex scene, it has never been with two people of the same sex. So that right there can definitely throw off some people, and if they see too much of that, they might not like it. Because there was another show that I thought of instantly when I thought of this relationship, because the character looked similar. I thought of Empire, and the character on Empire. So, obviously it's not the same show, but I did when I saw that, I did think about that immediately. But again, I don't have a problem with any of that stuff. It's more so about the other things I mentioned about the stuff happening off camera. It has to make sense. And again, I don't like that the explanation for the character being gay. Also, the character is soft in how he approaches things. So now he has to be a gay character. I don't like how they're going with that direction, but I will give them the benefit of the doubt and see what they're going to do with this from here. Because this episode was about revealing secrets that every character has. So now how they approach that moving forward, that will either make or break the concept as a whole for me. But yeah, that's all I had to say about it.
Yeah, I think on his drive home, he stopped and had a Starbucks latte or something, and then he was thinking about that guy and drew his body. I think that's what happened.
But I have a question. The class that they took, wasn't it a life drawing class?
Yes.
That's where the arm came from.
But see, that's the thing, because when we saw that scene, this guy still had on his jacket.
Yeah,
so
but you've been to life drawing classes. It's a nude class.
Yes, it is a nude class.
He was drawing a face, right? He was drawing a face, like
he was drawing the face of the guy next to him. That's what they were doing. So I didn't see a model in there that they were drawing. That's why that's why I want to know where that drawing came from, because that was a little like if it was a picture of the guy next to him, that makes 100% sense, because that's what he was drawing in the class. That's all I'm saying. For the continuity purposes, that's a little off.
Okay, so it wasn't a nude class.
Yeah, I mean, typically those classes can be new, but we didn't see a model in there because I think the assignment was to draw the person next to you, the partner next to you. That's what they had said. So that's why that was.
So
But yeah,
Well,
in
then
that
it
case,
explains.
Tariq's paper must have been completely blank because he won't
oh
see it
yeah,
to next to anyone. So
yeah. It was blank because he left out of there pretty quickly, you know. So
He's always running. Every scene, he's like running, just go somewhere.
yeah,
no, but when I saw that, like I did think like I need to just fly out to America and go to Stanford, Connecticut, and go to university or something. Because if you can just go into a class like that, like I can get some free education or something.
You
So
can actually. Because this is what happened. I've taken classes where you can. It really depends on the teacher and the environment and the school. Where not to say you could just run up there and start randomly taking classes, but if you're a friend of someone, like if you go to the University of England or whatever, right? And I'm your friend or whatever. This is a bad example, but like, hey, this is my friend. Some classes let you just tag along, and you can partake in the drawing. It really depends on the school and the teacher.
that's true. Hmm.
You
That
can't roll
makes
up
sense.
there by yourself, but you have to be with someone. Like we've had classes. I've taken classes where like people brought their little sisters in there or their little brothers, and it was no problem.
that teacher did seem very enthusiastic and
Very
like
enthusiastic. Like, yes, this is just a shared space. Let's learn. So, yeah.
yeah. So my thoughts on the whole Drew thing and the relationship and stuff. You guys, you make great points about it already. I've heard somebody said that they're just kind of throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks, and then you guys also said I heard
That's
the
what Dana
word
said.
that's what Dana said, and I also heard the word forced being used as well. So I kind of want to touch on something that I just a theory I have about the direction here. So a few weeks ago, right, I learned that there's this kind of these kind of set guidelines that are going around in the entertainment industry to where if you want to win an Oscar or an Emmy, you kind of have to include certain themes in your shows. If you want it to be kind of considered for one of these awards. So, and being having a very diverse cast is one of them, and that's something Power has always been. And also including being inclusive to people with the LGBT community, and just people like minorities and things like that. Just being inclusive overall. So I feel like they are really trying to kind of get that Emmy eventually, and they are kind of just laying the groundwork to kind of include all of these things, and like Dana said, they're kind of just throwing things at the wall. I feel like some of this stuff would be a lot more acceptable if they kind of laid the groundwork a lot more, because this can work, I'll say that, because like Rich said, he gave an excellent example with Omar. I mean, the first scene we see of Omar, he's, we see this rough, tough side of him, and then they start to show us, like, it's very layered. They show us more and more of him, and then we see subtly that, he is a gay character, but they don't kind of force it in your face or anything. It's just, you notice it gradually kind of thing. So there are ways to do this and make it work really well and make it really serve the character and the narrative and the world that you're creating. I just feel like they haven't done the best job of it. And also, like Rich said, we shouldn't just equate being a softer guy to automatically being gay. So and I feel like there should have just been a bit more depth there with with how they set that up. So that's my thoughts. Go ahead, Dana.
No, wrong. Hi. First, that pertains to the Oscars, not the Emmys. That takes place in 2024 is when they're enrolling that. Also, that's only for the Best Picture category. So it has this. It's not tied
Yeah,
to
yeah. That one
star at all.
specifically was for the Oscars, but I heard also that there was one like there's something like that for the Emmys and the BAFTAs as well. Is what I heard.
Not in America, just the Oscars.
Okay. Well, I do feel like they are like I feel like that is the aim though of the Power team. Like I do think they want that Emmy, and that they're willing to kind of
You
implement
have
certain
to
things.
first write an Emmy award-winning show.
And I think
How exactly is that working? I'm
yeah,
confused.
exactly. And I think that they're trying to, but they're not
You,
succeeding. They're not. They kind of need to pace themselves a little more. I think. And
Well, hold on a second, Dana. I thought you said that this was Emmy award-winning writing.
I said Emmy has written on the show. One time she was nominated for an award back in high school. Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, I just feel like I don't like because during the creative process, right? It's very easy to just think of all these ideas and these themes that you want to include in your piece of work, but they don't. Just having all of them together doesn't equate to a good story or a good piece of work. You have to kind of pace things and I right now I feel like they're doing a bad job because the first two episodes of this were really good, but 3 and 4, I feel like they are kind of, going back a little bit. So they're kind of, the quality is going down, and it's starting to kind of, mirror season 6 of Power, to me. So I think they just kind of need to, draw things back a little and just kind of pace things better and build things up a lot better, and that's just my thoughts on that. So the Drew character, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. I mean, like we've said, we said it about the other sex scenes that we've seen in this episode. We don't want to see these sex scenes just to see them. Like, make them mean more, to what we're seeing. Like, make them have more substance, and don't just have them to have them. So that's what I'll say about that. But you guys are free also to let us know what you think about that. So definitely drop a comment, let us know, what you think. And yeah, so like after watching this episode, what do you guys think of, the Tejada family? So I mean, we didn't get a lot of interaction with Tariq and Monet. I mean, at the start of the episode, they were on the phone together, and she was kind of running him through the rules and everything. But after seeing this episode, was there any like significant, anything significant that just kind of stood out to you about them that you think might play out moving forward? So go ahead, Rich.
No, let's go to Dana first.
Oh, go ahead, Dana. You are you muted? Can't hear you.
I am muted. I was saying that she finally learned how to pronounce his name correctly. That's the big development we have there. It's baby steps with Mary's acting. Baby steps. We got the right name though.
Yeah, that's progress right there. That's the character is
Okay.
developing. But yeah, go ahead.
So I have a question for both of you. Now we saw in this episode that they had to deal with the people who they've been having issues with. This little gang, their business partner, so to speak. And you saw Kane beat the guy down, and then after that, that's when Monet explains to them, we have a new business partner now, and that is Tariq St. Patrick. So here's my question for y'all. Do you believe that them basically saying because they had a bad business dealing with this previous group, this justifies why they have to work with Tariq? Do you think that that's a good enough reasoning as to why they had to do this business deal with Tariq? Because we complained about that last week, saying that there needs to be something like a reason why you need to work with Tariq. So do you think that this was a good enough explanation as to why they're working with Tariq now?
Repeat that first part again. Like, what was the
Yeah,
reason?
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, because you saw they beat down the group of guys at the beginning of this episode. Kane did,
Oh yeah.
and then you heard them say that now Kane had mentioned to his mom, and when they were talking, well, we're no longer working with them anymore. Now we're working with Tariq, and then that was when Monet had said that, and then Monet was saying, well, yeah, because I can control Tariq, but the reason why Kane liked working with the other guys because they had control over them. So what I was asking is, do you think that is a justifiable reason as to why to justify the explanation of why the Tejada family needs to work with Tariq? Or do you think that there still needs to be another underlying reason as to why Mary is the way she is and why they are constantly in need of money with this new product?
Good question.
I don't know if I explained. I don't know if I explained it correctly, but if it's confusing, then let me know.
No. You explained it well.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good question. And I know we touched on that, last week as well. I don't think it's 100% plausible that they would choose to just work with Tariq now instead of these guys. I feel like the streets. If you're talking about the streets, right? The streets has its own economy essentially, and there are always people willing to buy that product to resell. Because that's just how it works, right? So Tariq isn't the only option. Like, they could find someone else, and judging from the respect level that Monet has and her husband, you would think they'd have enough connections to where they could work with other people too, alongside Tariq. And I mean, what Tariq has with the app and everything, it's really just starting to, it's just getting started, and it's not fully proven yet. And of course, that's why she's trying to figure out the operation. She wants to know how it works because it's not fully proven yet, because it's so new. So it's like, why haven't you kind of secured some other situations as well that you can fall back on if things don't work out with Tariq? I mean, I know that you're kind of threatening, his mother and everything as well, because they can have something done to Tasha at any time. But stuff can happen to Tariq that's completely out of his hands. So I mean, you shouldn't put all of your eggs in one basket at that point. So that's my thing about it.
And let me just make a quick comment, then I want to hear Dana's opinion. I understand a wise person once said, anyone that's in business should already know it's a good idea to have multiple streams of income. So I would believe that is that would be a good point. But like you said, that shouldn't be their only source of income, because they acted as though, well, now that this other business dealing didn't work out, now we have to fully rely on Tariq. That this seems a little unrealistic, even though the money comes fast and it's a lot of money. But really, it feels like it's a bit of an extreme, because you're assuming that everybody at that school got that kind of money. They can all spend that money, and all of a sudden that it equates to more money than they can make doing business the way they were doing it before. So I'm very confused about that. I understand that they made mention in this episode that now the street is hot because the business partners exposed that they're doing business with them. So now they got to be very careful about how they make their money. But as someone in business, come on now, you got to have other ways to make money, and not just Tariq. But Tariq should not be the only source of how they're getting their money right now. So they definitely need to explain that a little bit further, I think, moving forward. But yeah, let's hear what Dana has to say about this.
Yeah, any thoughts on that, Dana? And you are muted. Hello. We can't hear you.
I remute myself. Hello?
We can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. It's a double muted thing. That's what happened. What happened in regards to Monet's character, I don't understand what's going on with her. Also, another thing that I noticed that was kind of weird. Remember when she took the phone from her quote unquote daughter? Because I'm still convinced that's not her daughter, and that there's something else going on. She's really paranoid about the phone. Remember when she took the phone away from her?
Yeah.
And then her phone was blowing up, she said, because Tariq needed more product, and it was the brother that was calling.
Yeah.
And then she got mad at her for not answering the phone, even though she doesn't have the phone in her possession, because when they took the phone,
Yeah.
what the heck is going on with this character?
I think she was mad that he was calling the sister instead of calling her. I think, but
then,
either way, she's way too controlling though. Like I don't understand. Yeah.
and it kind of hinted that she was controlling, but it didn't hint as to why. So other people felt that she was controlling as well, but we never fully got that explanation as to why she was controlling. And I feel that they're dragging this out, and I don't think that the answer is going to be something that is of great significance, which further frustrates me. But from what we've seen so far, I still don't know what her end game is. Why is she so determined the whole family still continues along this drug path? I don't know who she owes. Is there like a king of all kings when it comes to king drug pinning, and that's who she owes? Because it's just a very weird way how she's acting. It's extremely paranoid and this kind of like hint of desperation. And the whole thing of, controlling Tariq. Is she like this with everyone? Because I don't understand why she seems so laser focused on Tariq. I know it's, for the storyline overall to drive the story, but her character just does not seem to be something that's fully fleshed out, and she's coming across as being half crazed.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree 100% with everything you said. I don't understand the character either. And as for her having this relationship with the other cop, for all we know, when Lorenzo was out of prison, he could have cheated on her, and maybe now this is her getting back at him.
But that's petty. It doesn't make any sense. Like,
yeah,
really?
Yeah, there's a lot more they have to explain with the character. I agree 100%. But yeah, it's a little ridiculous. But I just don't like how now everything is reliant upon Tariq, and then you see at the end of the episode, Lorenzo sends the text and say, yes, he sends it to Tasha and says, yes, so your son bought himself another day. It's like they're trying to convince Tasha they have full control over Tariq, that he's in danger, when in actuality Tariq is the one that's making all the money. So I really don't understand that. There's more of an explanation, but for them to be solely reliant on him to bring in their money, that just doesn't seem like it makes any kind of sense from a business standpoint.
Feels like it's another Tariq ploy. Remember when he faked his own kidnapping?
Yeah.
It feels like he's purposely setting this up, because it's coming out of nowhere. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I don't understand what the whole purpose is. And even though, Tasha being in jail, I know that we have to have her do something. You can't just have her off screen, even though I would be fine with that. But they want to include her physically in the show. So I feel that this is only something that is to drive Tasha, I don't know, crazy, or do something with her storyline, because it's kind of floundering.
Yeah.
I don't feel the show visually, we don't need to see her at the moment.
I agree. And I guess that their explanation would be, well, she has to figure out who was spying on her in the jail. Is the other guy that was that
but
works
it's the
for
white
Lorenzo.
guy.
Yeah.
The whole time, and she's like, I'm gonna beat that girl. He's like, "Who's following me?" And it's like, no, it's the white guy who keeps staring at you in the corner. They even make that so obvious that it just further drives me more insane. I don't know what.
That's a parallel of real life, to be honest. But
staring at you in the corner.
Huh?
He's saying the parallel is the man is watching you all the time. That's what you're saying, Gary.
The man is always there.
Exactly. The man is always watching. You think it's the guy across the street, but no, it's the man. He's the one that's always watching. But yeah, But yeah, like I agree with what you've been saying, Dana. And my thing is like, because Monet kind of had this mystique about her, in the early parts of this season and everything, but she's quickly losing that mystique now, and
She's losing it all.
yeah, I think it's because like we don't know what her motivations are. Like her motivations have to be bigger than just she wants to sell drugs. Like it has to be something more. Like it has to be more than I want to sell all these drugs and control my family, and that's what I'm about. Like what else does she want in life? And
She an informant?
that
She could be like an informant, and that's why it's so this desperate need for whatever it is to happen.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it could be something like that. I think that there has to be something more going on. And I hope that it's something smart and intelligent that we're just not seeing right now. But I just hope that they have some kind of grand plan for the character, because at the moment it's just very one dimensional. But
I think, as Dana said, that it will be a letdown ultimately when they reveal it. It just feels that way. But yes, let's just go ahead and assume that Monet has the thirst for power, and she's so power hungry that she just has to control everybody. Because I know they had that scene again when she revealed that she did the deal with Tariq, and then Kane asked her, "Hey, I thought we always work together, Mom." She says, "No, I'm playing my position. You need to play yours. You're the person that beats people up. I'm the one that barks orders and tells everybody what to do." So there definitely has to be more to that character than that, though. There has to be more to it. It wouldn't make any kind of sense.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I hope so. And do we know how many episodes this season is? Is it 10 episodes?
10.
Okay. Yeah.
So they have a lot of time. Of course, we have the break coming up, so this might get dragged out a little. But yeah, I just hope there's something more going on that we're just not privy to right now, because it's starting to worry me. How it's progressing. So. But yeah, that was episode 4, The Prince. So did you guys have any final thoughts that you wanted to touch on with the episode before we wrap things up?
This was a much slower episode compared to the other episodes, and I hope we don't repeat that.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, let's kick things up a gear in the next episode.
So let me just make 2 quick comments. One will be a shocking revelation, so just be prepared for that. The first one, I find it funny how, and I have to commend Courtney Kemp, where you are still finding a way, even though this show is about Tariq, we are still finding a way to talk about Ghost and Tommy. And the fact that Tariq, how he found that gun at the laundromat, yes, this is where the stash was that Tommy and Ghost had. So it's funny how you can still get away with talking about Tommy, even though he isn't on the show yet. So we'll see what happens with that. And the other comment I want to make, I know that we have all had our fair share of complaints about the sex scene. I just want to let you both know, as well as everybody that listens to this show, there is an episode coming up of the remaining 6 episodes called Sex Week. So my assumption is that you're going to see a lot more sex. So stay tuned for that. I'm not making this up. Because I was looking at the title of the episodes. That's one of the titles coming up. So just be prepared for that.
They're going to have some sexual education at the school or something?
Probably that's what it is. Although they should already know that if they in college. You should already know what the deal is with that.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, that's interesting. I can't wait to see that episode. It'll probably be a bunch of things I don't want to see, but yeah. So like, did you guys watch the the preview of the next episode? And do you have any thoughts on that? Because for me, it was kind of a blur. I can't really think of anything that stood out. But what you think, Rich?
The only thing I have to say, they emphasize. I believe the episode is called "The Gift in the Magi." So if anyone has read that book, maybe they might get an idea as to what's going to happen or what the story is about. But all I know is that Tariq's 18th birthday, because they made mention of that, and obviously because they had in the preview, Tasha called him, said, "Oh, I wish I could have done something with you today, but obviously can't do that." And it just looks like what they are really planning, because at the end of that preview, it just says, you don't want to miss what happens next. You'll be surprised about what happens next. So something major is going to happen in the mid-season finale. I have no idea what that is. We'll have to wait and see. I guess a character may get in trouble, a character may get killed, or something to that extent. But I look forward to seeing what it is. I just don't know what it is. But yeah, I look forward to it. I will say that much. So we'll see.
Ooh, character death. That would be interesting.
Hi.
What do you think, Dana?
The Gift and the Magi, for those who have not read it, it's basically about a young couple who had to sacrifice everything they have in order to give each other the best Christmas gift ever. So it's about, yeah.
So are we going to see Christmas in this episode?
No, the point is that you have to sell everything that you have in order to sacrifice to get what you want. In order to make each other happy, you don't concern yourself about your own happiness. So it could easily be about Tasha having to sacrifice something for her son. And since right now there are random people who are wanting to kill Tariq, maybe she has to sacrifice something of great value, not literally money or possessions, but something of herself in order for that to happen.
Okay.
Yeah. Makes sense.
That's deep. It's deep right there. So yeah, can't wait to see that. I am, going back to the voice clip we played from Robert. I am quite upset that there is going to be a mid-season break, because I was really enjoying recapping these shows. So if we got to take a break, that's kind of not cool. But hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. I'm sure they have good reasons, with the pandemic and everything. They probably had to struggle with the recording of the show and everything. So it makes sense in that regard. But yeah, it's kind of a shame that the break is that long. But hey, what are you gonna do, right? Even the NBA was affected, so but yeah. So, I want to give a big shout outs to, Robert Silva, Rainy J, Angelwood, and, everyone who has been a long-term listener of the Powercast, everyone who comments and participates and everything. We've even had some new listeners reach out to us with some feedback and comments, and, we are very open to the feedback and the responses and everything, so do reach out to us. Let us know what you think. Let us know your theories and your thoughts in general. We love reading all of that stuff, and we appreciate it. And real quick, I just want to say, check out the Koalition.com, because we do have a lot of different types of content, from entertainment, TV, movies, video games, wrestling even. And actually next week, I believe we're having a show dedicated to The Walking Dead. So if anyone is interested in that show, we're going to have something on that too. So definitely look out for that. And I want to hand over to, Dana and Rich real quick, just to get some shout outs. So Dana, any shout outs before we get out of here?
Shout outs to everyone who has been listening to us. Yay!
All right, and how about you, Rich?
Yes, I would like to give a shout out to Dana and Gary. Another very good discussion. So I'll be very curious to see what all the listeners think. And yes, of course, to everyone that supports us, thank you for the continued support. Hopefully, you find all of these podcast entertaining. And please feel free to leave your comments on what you think about this episode as well. And hope everyone stays safe, and we look forward to next week's show.
Indeed, indeed. And, we are on Spotify, we're on iTunes, and we're trying to actually get some other places too that are having podcasts. So, yeah, we are in your favorite place right now. So definitely, check us out on those platforms if that's what you prefer. All the comments tend to come in on YouTube though. So, if you want to leave us a comment, you can either head over to the YouTube and drop a comment, or you can even do so on the website. Or, you can send in a voice clip. That email address again is gary@thecoalition.com. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. And I wish everyone a good week. Stay safe, everyone, because, it's the autumn is here and the temperature is changing. At least it is here. I don't know about America, but over here the temperature is changing, and, flu season is coming. So everybody be careful. Make sure you take precautions. So take care of yourselves. So peace out, everyone. Have a great week.